hello. Hare Krishna. Just woke up my dog there a little second there. It sure has been a while. How are you all doing? Getting in those rounds? I am just curious now when the last time we spoke was. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. 2 months. Darn. Yeah, it seems about every 2 months for a while has been like the time. I had to catch up with you again today. I just had to. It's Ekadasi. I got the place to myself. I just gotta read some of this Bhagavad Gita, mostly for myself. And if anyone else wants to listen to, that's fine as well. So I took down notes on the next few verses. I think I will only go up to 33 actually, because 434 is one of the most important verses in the entire Gita and also in any wisdom tradition. It's actually marks 434 is about, approaching a spiritual master and surrendering to him. That's kind of essential. That's kind of essential for anything you want to be good at. Kung fu, bhakti, winemaking, whatever. I actually have experience with all three of those. I don't have a kung fu master, but I do have a winemaking master, and yikes, I don't know how many bhakti masters I have. A bunch, actually. But Prabhupada, I have no problem saying I have no problem to say is my number one guru. That's fine. If anyone's earned it, it's certainly him. One thing different today is I now have a physical copy of this book, the literal translation of the Bhagavad Gita by H.D. Goswami, my Diksha guru. I haven't actually read this physical copy. I've read it on my Kindle a while ago, but we'll see if if I have a problem with one of these Sanskrit words, I'll open up to it right away. All right, please join me, if you like, to invoke. Oh, I better turn those sounds off. It was a happy ding, but a ding nonetheless. Oh my God. Sorry, my dog is slobbering too much. It's not my dog, it's my parents' dog. Let's get some Krishna. Let's get some Bhagavad Gita. Let's get some divine energy in this room, yeah? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. So we went up to 430. Oh my God, I gotta look this up again. Just want to make sure. Yeah, so we did 429. We're starting on 430. Very good. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reaction. And having tasted the nectar of the remnants of such sacrifice, they go to the supreme eternal atmosphere. I haven't looked at my notes in a while, but I can tell right away the main thing I'm latching on here to is who know the meaning of sacrifice. Jagyavida, literally like the knowledge of sacrifice. Pretty sure is what that means. Sarve api is, very interesting word. Sarve means all, and api means although apparently differently. So there's many different kinds of sacrifices. They appear different, but they are all these, eti, all these are actually the same. So when you have conversant with the purpose of performing, when you basically just have knowledge of all the different kind of sacrifices, but more importantly, not real knowledge of sacrifice as one thing, just like how Krishna is one person with many different arms, faces, energies, avatars, whatever, but there's one Krishna. Similarly, when you have that kind of knowledge of sacrifice, you're cleansed of sinful reaction, and you go to the supreme eternal atmosphere. All right, on to my notes. Yep, it's the same word, Jagyavida. We should be Jagyavida, in true knowledge of what sacrifice means. Then we are cleansed of the results and go to Brahman. See, this is why it takes me like 3 months to do one of these, because I can literally forget about this stuff for 3 months, and I just look at it, and I instantly go back to the same thing as if like it's wild. And my notes here for the purport is it's the common aim. The common aim of all is controlling the senses. That, I mean, is, I believe, shorthand for the common hand of all different kinds of sacrifices is to control the senses. And when you have the senses controlled, you have clear vision, the ego's not in the way, and then you get to just see the self and the super self. Although it seems kind of fishy, right? For bhaktas, wouldn't the main point of sacrifice be to please the Lord? Well, maybe not, because maybe that's not sacrifice. Maybe that's bhakti. Maybe that's why we have keep that word special and different in its own tattva is probably more appropriate. So Prabhupada says right away in the first sentence, from the foregoing explanation of different types of sacrifice, and he mentions in parentheses the main kinds: one's possessions, study the Vedas, and performing yoga, renouncing material goods, studying scripture, and performing yoga. This is exactly what I want to tell my friend Brendan. He is thinking about doing transcendental meditation, and he needs to be sober for 2 weeks and commit to. He's not quite ready for it yet. And I told him, you have my full blessing to pursue this path because it's the right path, regardless of if your master and my master are different, or your faith and my faith, your tradition, this tradition, that doesn't matter. I could see he was genuine when he said that he, is just getting tired of doing the same old, and, he's starting to just have a taste for sattva guna, basically, for more things, more in goodness and activities and lifestyle, more in tune with, what he specifically said was transcendental states of consciousness that don't rely on an external catalyst, i.e., entheogens, for instance. And yeah, I'm sure transcendental meditation is one way to get there, just like Krishna consciousness, or that's too general, though. We should say maybe mantra meditation, whatever. There's many ways to get there. As long as you get there, I'll be happy. Oh, too far ahead. Yep. And so Prabhupada says here explicitly it is found that the common aim of all sacrifices is to control the senses. Sense gratification is the root cause of material existence. I had so much trouble trying to explain, Brenda. We were talking about, get women getting married or not. And I had trouble explaining why women are so dangerous to the spiritual life of a man. And it's not that women are intentionally bad or dangerous. It's really this right here. It's that sense gratification is the main thing. And what are you going to do with a woman besides sense gratification? That's the appetizer, the entree, and the dessert all in one. Just being near her is sense gratifying. You can't lie. You can't say there's some other. The only way you can get away with saying that you as a straight man are hanging out with another of age straight woman and she's attractive, the only way you can get away with that is if you say, oh, we're going to get married and have children. And I'm not just saying that because those are the rules. I'm just think about it. There's actually no other justification. Like for a quality man who's being honest with himself, what are you doing? Like seriously, bro, what are you doing? If this is about just, oh, I like her company and she's interesting to talk to or something, no, she's not. I mean, maybe, but there's still many men who are probably better at that than her. And you don't have to worry about falling down or anything. So, what are you doing exactly? Talking to myself, too, of course. Enough of that. Prabhupada says the same thing I was just saying a second ago. Until one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, what I mean by what I was saying before is he doesn't mention must be study the Vedas or it must be yoga or it must be renouncing material goods. He's saying what I just said basically. It don't care, buddy. As long as it's not sense gratification, as long as it's some other platform that's transcendental to that, any other kind of platform, that's great. You're on the right path. Like, just keep going and you'll eventually get there. Mm. I also love how he says, there's no chance of being elevated to the platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life, which is obviously referencing to Sat Chit Ananda. This is how I talk in English too. And I'm pretty sure a lot of devotees I met in America, English speaking devotees, they actually don't know that I'm like, because I never quote a verse in Sanskrit and I only do one word at a time because I want to make sure people understand me. So I don't just, pull an Amarendra and just start, oh, I mean, it sounds good, but if people don't know what I'm talking about, I just feel like a dingus. So I just don't think that's how proper communication works. But this is how I do the same thing where like I'll say something in English in a normal conversation and normal pacing, but I'm actually referring to Prabhupada in scripture, but because many devotees are not used to talking like that, they like need to hear like chapter and verse or Sanskrit or whatever. They just think I'm not a devotee or a lesser devotee or something. It's just the opposite. I prefer when it's subtle and it's so much more interesting this way. And it makes sure it's a great test to see who's really paying attention, of course. um How are you doing? Are you guys reading along with me? Like, did you get to the full knowledge, full bliss, full life part? And did you catch that as well? Many veteran devotees, I think, will, although there are many beginner devotees who think they're not beginners who aren't catching this stuff. Pretty sure that's happening too. That's a big problem. Universal problem. Yep. And in the final end, he says, ultimately entered the eternal kingdom of God, either merging with impersonal Brahman or Sri Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's the same vibe all the way through here, which is why this is the best book in the world, because it's written by a pure devotee, and you can feel his voice. It just jumps off the page. Actually, his sincere desire and compassion to actually help and save people. And then the secondary aspect is, yes, there's good scholarly work here. The translation is good, the English is good, and the organization, and yeah, all of that. Like, it's very well put together. The cover has some beautiful artwork, and it's very well put together as well. He was, a pure devotee and an excellent man, so he can put a book together. But that's not the heart of it. The heart of it is that, for someone like Prabhupada, he just he needs to see us on the right path and just taking the next step. As long as we're just on the path and sincere, we will naturally be humble and we'll naturally keep going. Even if we bloop, which we all or most of us eventually do, we can bloop up again. Fall down, I think, is different from bloop in ISKCON English. Like, a bloop is something, I just blooped a little bit and I come back. But fall down is like, I don't know, maybe you'll come back in the next life, but a real fall down means you're really in trouble, and unless you do serious repenting, you may not actually come back again soon. So that's why we have to really be careful we don't really fall down. 18 minutes is already too long. All right, we can go on to 31. I actually finished the purport anyway. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Now, this is what that verse 31 is one reason we see in the purport to 30 that Prabhupada says, when we do all these sacrifices, oh, no, never mind. I was reading the next purport where he says all these sacrifices do automatically solve our economic problems. Once again, great teaching by Sri Krishna. This is basic principle of polarity here. In verse 30, he's saying, know all the kinds of sacrifice, and they're just, there's this one overarching sacrifice, and this will get you to the supreme, most eternal abode. But then in the next verse, he flips you on the other side of the pole and says, well, actually, what if you just want to be happy in this life? What if you just want to have a good party? What if you just want to have a good time? You still need to sacrifice to be happy right now in this life. You still must sacrifice. If you want to enjoy the benefits of Sattva Guna, you must first, if you're in Raja Guna, you must make some sacrifices until you get to the platform of Sattva Guna. And then after that, you can reap the rewards of that, which are quite nice, I would add. Very few people in this country, I think, are close to Sattva Guna. Even getting a taste of it once in a while is pretty rare. Tamas is so common. I see a lot of people who act sattvic, they walk slowly and they, speak slowly. That's a very common thing in American English, right? President Barack Obama, the president of the United States of America, would speak so slowly to show he is in control and he is in goodness. But that could also just be an act. And most of my neighbors around this neck of the woods are doing all sorts of acting. They're top shelf actors. They're so polite. And because they genuinely believe politeness makes them a good person, they start to genuinely believe they're a good person. And that's not how it works. Okay, same goes for you too, devotees who say, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, all glories to your obeisances and the Prabhupada and the da, and you perform it so well, and yes, you are so kind and graceful. And well, you might actually be in Tamaguna, bro. If it's mostly an act, and not only an act, but you actually believe that just because you're nice, just because you're pleasant, just because you sound like a devotee, does not mean you are actually devotee. This is called de facto Vaishnavism, what we are talking about now. Yes, yes. Murph, my dog, is so happy now. He's waking up. I like this preaching. Murph really likes. Yes. So de facto, indeed. Just as there are so many people who don't think they're a Satanist, they don't think they're evil, but they actually are indeed in how they act, in their selfishness, in their moral relativism. They're evil. They have evil inside of them, controlling them, actually. But because they're not going to the Church of Satan, they're not putting dollars in the donation box in Satanism, they think they're not Satanists. But actually, if you live mostly for your ego, and then as a secondary consequence, you care for others and God, you're a Satanist. That's what you are. That's what the word means. You have to look at de facto, at the deeds. We judge the tree by its fruits. Palena parichite. Same with Vaishnavas. There are so many Vaishnavas who may appear to be great Vaishnavas, and then you look at their deeds, you look at their actions, and sometimes we see, oh, maybe they're actually really bad, or maybe they're just, maybe they're just normal, but maybe they're just, just a Madhyama, Kanista, Adhikari. They're just some normal devotee, but they think they're so much better than they are, and it's incongruent and it's insincere, and so that actually brings them down lower than where they would be if they were just, not acting. And so, like, when you give obeisances, you have to give it from the heart. That's the only thing that matters. Just like when you offer bhoga to become prasadam. Yeah, I mean, with me and with many others, it can help if you really pay attention to the material details and organize the plate nicely or whatever. But it has to be from the heart. I'm being told to stop ranting because I'm starting to forget what I was saying just before that. So offering, obeisances. So it's better. The East Asians are masters of this. Is why I love living over there, because the Chinese, the Japanese, they can surrender their soul to. They can be so humble while on the outside doing nothing. They can just go, hi. And it's like, wow, he worships me. I'm exaggerating, but when you're good at this, if you just practice, you can do it. You can offer obeisances to a person and to God, where on the outside it might look totally mundane, or it might look very weak. It might not even look like a big obeisance. But if your heart is in it and you're sincere and aligned, not over here, not over there, you're, in your middle. That's basically what sincere means, I guess. It works. And eventually you will reap the rewards of that. All right, let's go to my notes here for 31. Krishna is kind of hinting that although Raja Vidya and reincarnation are foundational, sometimes we don't even need a high realization of that. I don't know what I meant by that. So the main point is that we can't be happy in this life without sacrifice. What of the next? Oh, okay. Okay, I see. So yeah, in other parts in the Gita, like Raja Vidya and reincarnation are stressed as very fundamental philosophical doctrines. Practice. It's not a doctrine, but philosophy. Um, but then again, I mean, you could go more fundamental, like in this verse, and just go to sacrifice. I mean, think about it. How else are you going to realize Raja Vidya? How are you going to actually realize and taste it without doing sacrifice? You just have to get really lucky, take some really good shrooms or something. In the purport, Prabhupada focuses on the importance of escaping this world so the next life is secured. And what I wrote here is my ethos might be different, but we agree on the truth. I don't know why I wrote that, because my ethos is a lot about escapism. I do that a lot. Oh, but ethos. Oh, I see. I mean literally ethos. So like my work with Aristotle and character. Literally, ethos means character, right? So focusing on the improving and cultivating my individual character on the mundane level, is not about Raja Vidya or it's just the opposite of a lot of Eastern practices, Buddhism, Hinduism, a lot of them. When you focus just on character, it means you're really grounded in the earth very strongly. So in the beginning, it can be, well, certainly very difficult and boring, but sometimes dangerous too. I was thinking, like, if you're a hardcore practitioner of bravery and you're in a place where someone calls you a coward or I don't know, there's some real threat or fear that you need to face, you might be so gung-ho about getting to the next level that you go too far and, get hurt or whatever. And of course, that's also natural. I'm not saying we shouldn't practice bravery. Of course, that's just part of the deal. But like with anything else, when you focus on it too much, you can become fanatical and whatever else. Always just go to the golden mean in the middle. When the body is fully, I'm reading from the purport now to 31. When the body is fully supplied naturally, the next stage is to satisfy the senses. So should we not fully supply the body? Should we fast? Maybe is that a good idea that we should fast so that we don't have to worry about satisfying the senses? Yeah. Okay, we'll go on to 32. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. And then, so this is like the third item in that verse set, I guess, where, we did the first extreme in verse 30 of supreme eternal abode, and then 31, look, buddy, just, have a good life. Just do sacrifice for, just earth, living on earth. And then in 32, it's all going back to all the different kinds and synthesizing it all together. So These are all bona fide. All these different things are bona fide, and there are many different kinds. And just knowing that, you'll become liberated. I hope you guys can't hear my dog just like he's like just slurping on. He's grooming so sloppy. Oh geez, I'm so distracted. All right, la 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 la. 32. All these are bona fide, and there are different kinds for different kinds of people. Okay, so that's another great thing about this verse here is Krishna is hinting that do not fret, do not fear, which is, of course, Arjuna is struggling with. He's lamenting and thinking, oh, this kind of yoga is hard. I don't know. Like, it's okay. Like, there's, once again, going back to that compassionate bhav of Prabhupada, and Krishna himself is also doing this on a very large scale, right? By organizing the events of the Bhagavad Gita and then having it passed down, and how he spoke the words, and it's like, oh my gosh. It's a great song. It's a great song. We can all listen to it and chant it and sing it and benefit greatly from it. Yep, different types of sacrifice to suit the different types of worker. I'm looking at Prabhupada's purport now. Very short purport. Might as well read the whole thing. Because men are absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, the mind, or the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from his own mouth. All right, I think we'll do, I'm already over time, so yep, we're definitely not doing 34 today. But we'll do 33 and get out of our hairs here. I don't have that much hair, but you know what I mean. I wish you could see my dog, guys. He's I've never seen him so pleased with me. He's like, what'd you do? Why are you waiting 3 months to do another one? You got to do this every day, dummy. He was just out of breath for grooming himself so rigorously. Oh, there he goes again. Smart, though. We all got to take care of our health. I've had dentist visit recently and losing weight. Finally, I'm really close to my pre-COVID weight, which I knew would happen as a matter of time. And that time's coming into now. It's good. Just eating salads and it's just nice. Not junk food, not overeating, and don't want to or need to either. I'm not even craving it that much. It's nice. It's a nice life. 33. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice of knowledge is greater than the sacrifice of material possessions. O son of Pertha, after all, the sacrifice of work culminates in transcendental knowledge. Oh my God. Beautiful verse. What I'm thinking right away now is that this is the same kind of verbal style we see again and again, where it's like, well, don't even worry about this great thing. If you just do this, you'll just get this great thing anyway. Like don't get lost in the, mystical stuff so much. It's so funny because, Sri Krishna is Yogeshvar. He's the master of all mysticism, the master yogi of all the yogis. And the Bhagavad Gita, why I love it so much, is because Krishna is taking the most mystical things from the most mystical person, and he's giving it in this super practical, earthy way to, a warrior on the battlefield. And this is the most carnal, visceral environment ever that you can be in on this planet, is where Arjuna was in, surrounded by family and, military powers, and on the ground, and you're all suited up, and the adrenaline's flowing. Like, this is as carnal as it can possibly get. And Krishna, I think, had to organize it this way so that, oh, he's this way. All right, Krishna. So that we get to have this great gift of this great mystical knowledge and truth in a practical, grounded way, so we can actually attain it, which is the main point of all this, is actually getting the great work done, which means we get enlightened ourselves first, we clean ourselves first, then we take care of others. So the sacrifice of work is in the last sentence there. And that ultimately culminates in transcendental knowledge. And so that Krishna is comparing that with, instead of sacrificing knowledge or material possessions, and you're going to have to work at doing that, either of those anyway. So if you're going to put some work into something, and that work will ultimately end in knowledge anyway. So like, if you, like, for example, you sacrifice all your material possessions, you go into the forest. That's a great sacrifice. And why do you do that? It's so that you get a realization of truth and knowledge. And yeah, so instead of sacrificing this so that you get that, so that you can sacrifice that, the basic principle here is just go straight to the source. If the goal is knowledge and truth, just go for it. Just go directly for it. And yeah, of course, naturally you won't get there right away, and you'll know, oh, my ego's in the way. Oh, I have cravings, or bad relationships. Okay, fine. Clear it up, clean it up, and then keep going. What do my notes here say? Jnana Jagya, knowledge of sacrifice, is better than renouncing objects, because all kinds of sacrifice ultimately end at the same place, transcendental knowledge. Yep, same thing I just said. Purport, read first sentence. Okay. The purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from material miseries, and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna consciousness. So, renouncing objects doesn't actually get rid of the material misery. It only gives temporary relief. But whatever successful sacrifice we do, we know it's successful when those same objects no longer bring misery. We don't need to throw them away. That is good. Right. So sacrificing material possessions is a means to an end. It's never it's never the primary way to gain enlightenment or peace or whatever. It may be necessary at certain times, and actually at all times. There's always probably one material thing that you're good to get rid of. Pretty much all the time, there's at least one thing, one material thing that you can renounce. Because also remember, what does material thing mean? It doesn't have to be a physical object. It can be a habit, a physical routine in physical consciousness that you do that you just don't need to do anymore. or that doesn't lead to spiritual growth. It's always at least one thing we can get rid of, always. But even if you get rid of all those things, just means you have less things. That what actually does, why that works, is because then you're clean, you're clear, you're pure, your senses are now aligned and clean, so they can see things as they are. So when you have clean senses and you simply look inside, you will see yourself, you will see God, you will see the kingdom of God, because that's where it is. It's here. It's out there as well, but the primary home for God in you is in you. Quote, when one's faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifices should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. For without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. Oh, this is another Bhagavad Gita verse that I think Prabhupada is referencing, the Shraddha. You must have Shraddha, or else all your religion is pointless. Let me see if I can get that real quick here. We'll go into notes and Bhakti and Bhagavad Gita notes. Nope, those are just like lecture notes. I gotta. Where is it? It's in Shastra notes, I guess. Yeah, there's B. I have so many notes. Oh, yeah, 1728. Let's do that real quick. (1723). 1728. But sacrifices, austerities, and charities performed without faith ashradhaya, without faith, in the Supreme are non-permanent, meaning material platform, which is exactly what we just read in this verse, or in the purport, sorry. One who simply sacrifices possessions without transcendental knowledge, those sacrifices remain on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. In other words, are non-permanent. That's the word Prabhupada uses in 1728. O son of Pertha, regardless of whatever rites are performed, they are called asat and are useless both in this life and the next. Oh, this is a really special verse. It's the end of the 17th chapter. And I love this verse because Prabhupada uses asat as an English word. It's not italicized. It's just, he just puts it in there because he has to. I mean, there's no other word you can use that will have a really good translation, but also be succinct. Like asat is just so perfect. It would be so hard to find a better word there. And of course, also, this is the 17th chapter. So if you're an earnest reader and you've made it through the first 16 chapters and you don't know what asat is, and you're like, oh, now I have to look that one up. Yeah, you do. You deserve that kind of stuff. If you've made it this far and you're like, oh, what does asat mean? Oh. You deserve a little suffering. You can, freak out for a little bit, and then while you wait, spend a few minutes Googling it or whatever, you deserve that. Okay, back to the purport of 433. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. And When we are elevated to that level of knowledge, all activities enter into the spiritual platform. This is a great purport. Prabhupada is giving us a scientific reason why knowledge is a superior sacrifice. Because it's not just superior, it's like categorically superior. If you can do all these material sacrifices and get all this economic prosperity and health and whatever, but if you don't have transcendental knowledge, and if you're not doing those sacrifices from the ethos, from the platform of transcendental knowledge, you ain't doing nothing. But like Krishna said a few verses ago, you will have happiness in this life. At least if you make some good sacrifices for, in yoga, in study, and whatever, you can at least have a good, happy, healthy life in sattva guna, long, prosperous life. Of course, you can have those things. But the ultimate goal is impossible without transcendental knowledge. Depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, fruitive activities, and sometimes jnana kanda, knowledge in the pursuit of truth. It is better when the end is knowledge. Once again, beautiful language from Prabhupada and Krishna, who are, I think, on the same line. They're on the same bhav. They're on the same, they're teachers in the same way of the same content. It's actually humble. Prabhupada is being quite humble here when he says, it is better when the end is knowledge. The actual truth is way more severe than that. It's actually that if you think if you're kind of maybe thinking, oh, well, no, still renunciation of this other thing is good, and knowledge is good. No, you're an idiot. You're a moron. It's definitively true that you must know this. What are you doing if you don't know? How stupid are you at this point? Even by the 4th chapter, if you don't get it now, that knowledge is better than just material sacrifices. What is wrong with you? That's true on some level, but that's not the vibe here. Prabhupada is saying it is better because he's saying it's totally fine if you want to do it some other way, or if you're not ready, it's totally fine. But if you're going to look at it, casually, not casually, but gently, if you're going to, from this soft, gentle place of, which is also sincere and sattvic, you're thinking, oh, I want to do something nice for myself, or I want to do something nice for the Lord. Could I do it this way or that way? Well, it is better when the end is knowledge. You can do it the other way. It's completely fine. You'll probably do it regardless of what I say, Prabhupada, Krishna says, whatever. You'll probably do whatever you're going to do. But if the main goal, if instead of getting this or getting that, or getting spiritual this or spiritual that, material this or material that, if instead the end is just knowledge, especially if you're sincere, if you're curious like a good student, and you just kind of want to know, what is this all about? Who am I? Who is God? What is God? Where are we? Like, if you're coming from that place of sincere curiosity, and you're going through life just to find out what is the thing, as Biden says, what is the thing, man? And if you actually find that thing, man, well, you probably won't have dementia and be on drugs like Joe Biden. And with that note, we'll end there. Oh, I might have more notes though. Yep. So, yeah, I read that. Okay, the basic summary is the final sentence. Jnana beats Karma Kunda. Yep. I don't actually know what Kunda means. It means like pursuit. So Karma Kunda is fruitive activities. So those are like, that's like the way of karma. So it's like the path of karma is kind of like that. And then Jnana Kunda is like the path of jnana, because he calls knowledge in the pursuit of truth. So fruitive activities means pursuing fruit, the pursuit of fruit, fruitive activities. So Kunda, I'm going to translate as like pursuit or the way of. Karma Kunda is the way of karma. Jnana Kunda is the way of jnana, or the end of, or when the end you're aiming at is jnana, or the end you're aiming at is karma. Jnana Kunda beats Karma Kunda. Very simple stuff here. Although I don't want to be casual, because casual is the enemy of the sacred. I learned that from a Christian recently, and it's so true. If you want something to be sacred in your life, don't be casual around it. If you're being casual around something that you think is sacred, that's a problem. This is why we have a temple, a dedicated temple over there, and then a bathroom on the other place, and a kitchen on the other, and your house is over here, and these are all separate, so that when you go to the temple, it's a different place, it's a different thing, and it's not just a casual public park that you just stroll into, because then it's not sacred. So the casual is the enemy of the sacred. And we will stop there. Hare Krishna. Can't wait to see you next time to look over the most important verse in any wisdom tradition. And for any wisdom practitioner, 434 is going to be your top 3, top 5 verses in the entire Bhagavad Gita, regardless of if you're Vaishnav or not Vaishnav, theist or atheist, it actually doesn't matter. This is why we're not supposed to actually teach this stuff to everyone, because if when an atheist understands this stuff very clearly and they really get how to offer obeisances and gain the benefit from a master, well, they can take that knowledge and go to the most evil master in the world and gain a very high level of evil very quickly. So this is very important knowledge. And fortunately, and this is one reason I'm happy to talk about it openly on this YouTube channel, which has basically 0 subscribers, 10 subscribers or something. Hopefully I don't get famous in the future and people hear my old thoughts. Just kidding. I don't care. Peace on earth. God bless. Light the way. Hare Krishna.